need to have a healthy attitude to respect even these insignificant problems with ESD. Once you are aware that they are occurring and that they can lead to worse problems or to frustrating situations, and you take a step to rectify it before you have hard failures where it's identified as a failure, you're doing a very, very good thing in your life. And I think part of the problem is there's not enough knowledge about what simple, easy steps I can take that really do matter and do work. It's a little bit of a subject that's just secondary enough, just low enough priority that it doesn't quite get, it's not visible to everyone.
Hi, I'm David Cram of Apple Service. I know you'll be thrilled to hear that the computer service industry has a problem that many of us have never really faced before. Sparks. The kind you get on a dry day when you touch a doorknob, only much, much smaller. So small you can't see them, you can't feel them. They never used to bother us much. Integrated circuits were pretty coarse 10 years ago, but now we have circuits so small and so fragile that very low voltages can make chips like these stop working, or worse, cause them to look like they're working but do weird and unreliable things. And it's getting worse. Just about every computer product made today has chips in it that can be damaged by the charge that's just resting in a necktie or a synthetic sweater. We're talking about ESD, electrostatic discharge. Here's what happens. When some dry non-conductors separate, they each take an opposite charge. If there's a conductor nearby, the non-conductor will induce a charge on the conductor, and the conductor discharges it when it gets close to another conductor. And that discharge is what causes the damage. When you walk across a carpet, your shoes separate from the carpet, creating a charge on them. And the charge on your shoes creates a charge on your feet by induction. Now your sweat layer makes you a conductor all over, and the charge clings to the surface of your body until you touch another conductor like a doorknob or another person or an IC chip. Then it discharges in the form of a miniature lightning bolt. If you can feel it, it was at least 3,000 volts.
You know, even from personal experience, I've had you know, a lot of my own equipment, and I'm not working day in, day out, passing a lot of equipment through my hands. It's what I own and use. I've had a lot of it fail for ESD reasons. I mean, one of the key architecture features of the Apple II that was a huge plus for the whole industry getting kicked off actually came about because of an accidental ESD experience.
Tell us about it.
Sure. The first design of the Apple II said the cheapest memory chips are 1 megahertz. A TV line scans across for 40 microseconds of video and 25 microseconds of blanking. So I gave the video circuits, in the first Apple II design, gave the video circuits 40 microseconds in a row, 40 cycles of RAM. And then I gave the microprocessor 25. And I thought holding the microprocessor off for 40 microseconds was plenty safe. All the specs assured it. The engineers on the phone assured me that it could go for 2 milliseconds. But the Apple IIs I was demonstrating, they would fail. All of a sudden, the processor would go bad. The 6502 would go bad. So I'd plug a new one in, and it would work fine. And I had this dead 6502, but for some reason, it still worked in an Apple I. It was a very weak effect that caused it not to work in my Apple II design, but it did work in the Apple I design. Well, it forced me to figure out that the electrostatic discharge, one time I actually noticed a spark, and right when it went bad, and I knew that that's what led me on to it. Really was some sort of electrostatic discharge was not destroying the chip, but it was ruining a parameter that wasn't clearly specified in any data sheets. And I finally determined that, okay, you cannot hold this processor off for 40 microseconds. You can when it's brand new, but you cannot a week later. Every single one I used, you could not a week later. And that led me to search for the fact that now the 2 megahertz RAMs were inexpensive, and by going 2 megahertz, we could have video processor, video processor, video processor. It's a very famous characteristic of the Apple II that helped make a lot of its architecture work so well and give it such great performance. And it came about because I was trying to solve an ESD-related problem. ESD protection, when it's a disastrous failure, it's spotted instantly. You know, we can all put a weight on that. One of the worst things about ESD failures is that sometimes they're partial. They are intermittent. They cause a computer that will occasionally run for a few hours and then crash, but it can't be traced. You try to run all the tests on it, everything seems to run fine. These intermittent problems are the worst ones. They're the hardest ones for technicians or normal people to deal with. You can go for several months before usually the problem gets worse, is the only way you ever do get it rectified. If you have a sloppiness about your whole approach, eventually it's going to lead to some of the more disastrous problems, particularly later in your own career.